And so what we do at Clay is we look at about a dozen different signals on our target accounts to understand what types of campaigns we should run against them. So if someone has liked a piece of organic content on LinkedIn, if they've interacted with an ad, if they've attended an event with our founder, if they've visited the website, if they've connected with one of our GTM engineers, if they've replied to an outbound email, these are all signals that we will actually use to create a composite score on the account. And as the account score increases, it will move them into different stages of our funnel where we will run increasingly personalized campaigns. So I think that is probably the best thing to do with signals. The other thing you can do with signals is continue to focus on your top of funnel. So now in Clay, for example, you can create ad audiences directly in LinkedIn from Clay. And so as you're seeing accounts start to visit your website or interact with your organic content, I would then move them into an ad audience where you can run ads against them and use those ads to further warm them up so that you can begin outbounding them either in an automated fashion or with your with your sales reps. And so I would not generally be using, like, there's this idea of like signals-based outbound. I think the best way to do that is to actually use the signals as a measurement of what's working well, instead of using the signal as a reason to go reach out to the company right away. I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind with signals is that you still want to really factor in who is your target persona. And so in a lot of cases, an account will be generating signals, but people will skip the step of actually applying their ICP criteria to the contacts on that account. And so an example of this is like person level de-anonymization on a website. How this works is, like, let's say like an engineer from another company visits Clay's website. At a very naive level, we might de-anonymize that web visit and then send the engineer an email. Well, the engineer is not in Clay's ICP. Clay serves RevOps and marketing ops and CROs and so forth. And so if an engineer is visiting Clay's website, we might kind of like tally that up as a signal, but we're going to wait until the account is in a hot or warming up state before we are actually going to send some outbound to our true ICP contacts. And we're never going to kind of lose sight of the fact that even if other people at the account are interacting with Clay, our focus is still on who we've identified as our kind of ICP persona. So I think a good signals program encompasses all of those things. And, you know, it's never a problem to kind of run campaigns against a signal, especially if there's a signal that you feel is, you know, really strong. An example of that might be like, you know, whenever a customer launches a new AI product, you can bet that they're using one of the large model providers underneath the hood to power that. And so if your offering kind of goes side by side with a large model provider, that might actually be an example of a campaign that you'd want to run. But that is like a demand gen task. I would actually separate that from the marketing and strategic task of how do you leverage signals within your go-to-market.